If you struggle to get a good mark on the poetry comparison, you are not alone. It's a tricky one, but here are some tips based on advice from the Examiner's Report in 2025. I'm Grace, I'm an English teacher, tutor and examiner. Follow for more tips for English and join me on Wednesday at 8:30 live on Revise's TikTok account for a breakdown of a poetry comparison. First, students with their own personal interpretation of the poems tend to do a lot better. This means not just memorising other people's analysis or ideas that you've learnt online. Students who do this are often not actually thinking about what they're writing, they're just trying to remember word for word what somebody else said, so it doesn't always make sense in their essays. Instead, use all of these resources that are available to you, but then sit down and decide for yourself, what does this poem actually mean? What is the poet trying to say? And for each of the poems in the anthologies, just have a sentence or two at the top of your anthology telling you this in your own words. It will be much easier for you to remember and to apply to a range of questions because it's your own thoughts. Now, the Examiner's Report said that students who were too focused on single word analysis often didn't actually do as well because they might be missing the overall point of the quote that they're analysing. So when you're choosing your quotes, make sure that you are thinking about the big picture, those key ideas that the poet is trying to put across, and how they are doing that through language. Pay attention to the patterns in language. If your quote is an example of a semantic field of war that is throughout the poem, for example, and you don't reference that, and you're just focusing in on one word, you're not showing that you actually know the poem really well. So link your analysis of your quote to the poem as a whole, the ideas that are developed through the techniques that the writer uses in that poem. And finally, if you struggle to write comparative paragraphs, which lots of students do, it's not actually necessary to do this to get a good mark. AQA have specifically said that it is totally fine for you to write about poem A and then poem B and then draw them together in a comparison at the end. Your thesis statement, your introduction, should also lay out the similarities or differences between the poems. So it takes a bit of planning, but you do not have to write comparative paragraphs. Deal with them separately if you find this difficult. You could still get full marks on this question.